Brothers and sisters, we made it. We made it. We made it. I'm here. So let's get it popping. The way of the moron. See, because I would rather educate people than speculate or play the role of somebody who is trying to defame, right on, and slander or libel against someone's character. Now, I got some links. Each one of them I'm gonna bring up nice and slow. I'm gonna check on the screen as I do this shit. I'm gonna make sure everything is running off right, and it should be good to go. Give me 1 second. Whoop, whoop. Perfect. There we are. So here we are. I'm gonna pull up this Chrome tab. We're gonna start off first with the moron in eugenics. I'm gonna share that one, and it's real quick. It says it says moron is a term once used in psychology and psychiatry to denote mild intellectual disability. The term was close tied with American eugenics movement. Once the term became popularized, it fell out of use by the psychological community or psychology as it was more commonly used as an insult than as a psychological term. Now, where I press back on this, and I just have to, we have to preface our entire study on the idea that the way of the moron is that they are actually, they have a intellectual stunted growth. And not only that, but the more further denotion of a moron, and I'm not going to get carried away with it, is somebody who has defunct genetics. Now we're going to work our way down from back to front, and we're going to read these websites that are here. And what we're looking at are several little things. So this first one is going to be about what says the Odyssey of Gauls and Slavs from India to Europe. Okay. Abstract. This study, which first aim was to demonstrate the correspondences between the Gaulish language and the Slavic languages, between which I found 500 common words, also allowed me to demonstrate on the basis, and this is by a guy named Javier Roward or Wood, I'm saying, Howard, I'm saying, Wood, something like that, because I'm not sure, you know how they pronounce the R in in uh in French when it's first and last. I would have to, I'm saying, wow, or something like that though. But it's not a common last name. But however, this individual, back to what I was saying, and he was saying that this study, which was an aim to demonstrate the correspondences between the Gaulish language and the Slavic languages, between which I found 500 common words, also allowed me to demonstrate on the basis of linguistic, genetic, archaeological, excuse me, archaeological, and religious data. that these correspondences were linked to Neolithic migrations from northwestern India and Pakistan to Iran, Mesopotamia, Anatolia, the Caucasus, the north of the Black Sea, Danubian, and the Balkan Europe to Gaul and Iberia, where Neolithic agriculturists contributed to the formation of the megalithic civilization which developed from whatever 5000. This explains the linguistic correspondences established between megalithic civilization, excuse me. This explains the linguistic differences I established between Gaulish and Dravidian languages. 250 common words and 500 words I studied. Um, 1 second. I studied and 160 Buddhashaksky, as well as similarities in the organizations of society and religion. And I'm going to get down to how all this, the way of the moron, give me a second, which lead to researchers to suggest on on the as on the as similarities I found in the organization of society and religion, which led certain researchers to suggest on the basis of the spread of the very ancient haplogroup H2P96 from India to Western Europe. And these guys are talking about Indo-Europeans, just in case anybody didn't know. Um, the first Europeans and Proto-Dravidians had a very ancient common origin. Okay, and it's about to turn to French, so I'm about to get up out of there, right? Oop. And then I'm about to get to this next spot. Okay, 1 second, and I'll make sure that we're all on the same thing. Hold on. Whoa. Because they're acting funny. View tab. Whoa, 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 whoa. 1 second. They're doing something crazy. Stop sharing, and then I'm gonna have to share again, and then I'm gonna have to see what's up. See, I tried to do what I thought was the right way this time. Share, bam, studio. Okay, and this is the article I was just reading. So we're gonna scroll down quick. I'm gonna blow it up just a little bit, so it's just a little bit easier to read. And then I'm gonna run down. I'm not gonna read anything again, but I will give a quick what's the word I'm looking for? I will give a quick rundown. So now I'm seeing it for what it is. I'm gonna have to go reclose it, reopen it. It's gonna be a bunch of extra shit, but whatever. However, the moron, eugenics. Eugenics was the study that said that you were born into the bloodline that you were because of genetic superiority or inferiority. What I'm contending is that the individuals that you're reading about, now understand, people, this is a guy who's in France, okay? Uh, Javier Girard, whatever the fuck this nigga's name is. But listen, his field of interest, Gaulish language, Slavic languages, Indo-European languages, which should have been the first one because everything he just said is Indo-European, Dravidian languages, Secret Service in the Cold War, blah, 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 blah. Fuck all that. Listen, check this out. He's telling you everything you guys need to know. Now, question I have for y'all. Is this dude a moron or what? People like me, what the hell are you talking about? This nigga has to be a moron. He purposely left out the frogs. He purposely left out the frogs. Think about that. I'm not talking shit. I'm not saying nothing crazy. I'm saying that's what you're looking at. So I have the way of the moron is that they only know so much. The same dude who called other people mentally deficient was a dude that was all the way deficient himself. How I know this? Because he didn't understand that his cousins, Francis Galton, Sir Francis Galton, the guy who created eugenics. I'm not going to give people a full blown rundown of everything. You either know this shit or you don't. That's what it is. Okay, boom. Sir Francis Galton, because I've said it for many years and I'm not going to keep saying every little same thing. He is the cousin to Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin and one Gregor Mendel, who is a monk of the Augustinian order, St. Augustus. Look him up. St. Augustus is the, anyway, look, Gregor Mendel, Charles Darwin, beefing. Francis Galton, cousin to Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin dies 2 years before Gregor Mendel. The year after Charles Darwin dies, Francis Galton introduces eugenics to the earth. A year later, Gregor Mendel passes away. Why this is all so important is because the individual who's talking about Slavs and this and that, he couldn't tell you how he benefited from all this. Understand me. The Rockefellers weren't just in America, they're known about all over the earth. So don't let this dude here who's trying to prove that the French have some sort of Gaul or Slavic or Turkic background, okay? Because we're about to break it down. Don't worry, I'm about to break it down. We're about to cut all the way into this. But before we cut all the way into it, I need y'all to see the article that was being talked about so that way you guys can see the words and understand what I was saying. We're about to read an article, two articles from now. One is going to kind of break into it. The second one is going to really break into it. When I say that the way of the moron is for you to not think that they're a moron, let me tell y'all something. Is the dude stupid who smokes weed and doesn't drop atomic bombs on people, or the guy that says he's sober minded while he does all this? Who's the real moron? Who's really genetically defunct? Think about what I'm saying. You're going to die no matter what one day anyway. So fearing your death and how it's going to come to you really is going to do you no good, and it's probably going to get you to your grave even faster. Number one. Number two, that being said, do you think that somebody who is willing to drop nuclear bombs on another individual is genetically sound? Do you think that they have the genetics that Adam and so-called Adam and Eve had when the first people were on the earth? Whoever you think the first people were, do you think that those individuals were created with such constitution that they would use weapons that could destroy the entire face of the earth on one another because they had a disagreement? And that's what it comes down to, a disagreement. A disagreement about anything. It doesn't matter what it is, it's a disagreement. There can be honor and dishonor within the disagreement, but there is typically a disagreement. Something that we do not agree on now, it's come beyond words. That being said, Francis Galton created eugenics so that way the people would be confused into believing that everything that they had post slavery, interim Jim Crow, was because they were genetically superior than the people that they were dealing with. I want y'all to understand that the individual Javier Wawad, right? This individual right here, no disrespect, he doesn't understand that that the French are directly related to the Francs. Don't worry, I will bring up the article that brings all this together. I'm not just talking at the side of my neck. Giving these lessons for free, I ought to be slapped though. I should be anyway. I need to start the University of Meech. Shit. Next article, because I could easily find the same information uh, the same way. Stop sharing. Share again. What's up, bro? What's popping, family? No, man, this shit is real, bro. I'm saying the truth, man. To say it. Once I share, view it, bang. Okay, there we go. We good to go. I just got to make sure that it's all good to go. And so now I got this whole thing on lock, and we're gonna check out this article right here, and it's called Slavs, right? Now we're gonna read this because you know your boy. See, I'm different from everybody else. These other niggas say shit, but if I really care to, I can go back and pull up the videos where I talk about tangibles in like 2016, 2017, but I'm pretty sure 2016, the first time I said I need something tangible with a bear in my hand in a video. It's like 8 years ago, and other things that these guys took from me. But let's just keep reading. The term Slavs, and we're talking about the way of the moron, okay? Because a moron can educate himself and still not know nothing. Let's keep talking. The term Slavs designates an ethnic group of people who share a long cultural continuity and speak a set of related languages known as Slavic languages. Hold on, what does that kind of sound like? Now, you ain't going to be able to see it again because I'm going to read it to you. Abstract. This study, this is the first article, which was the first aim was to demonstrate the correspondences between the Gaulish language and the Slavic languages, between which I found 500 common words. Stop right there. Bang bang. Back to the point. The Slavic languages, all of which belong to Indo-European language family. All of which what belong to the Indo-European language family. Listen. I wasn't saying this to be backbiting or nothing crazy. I'm gonna line this shit up like a real life hitter. Okay, they're not gonna be able to deny anything that I'm saying, and the only thing people are gonna be able to say is that the information he's using is biased. But all the people who are saying these things are not all the same people, so they have different reasons for saying it. Right on. One dude is from France. The other guy's name is Christian Violati. This dude is Italian or some shit like that. You know what I mean? He could be French, right? He could be Belgian or something like that. But I'm just saying, Violati, come on, man. You guys know this dude ain't no French dude. He's mixed up with some of those other, type of bloodlines. But let's keep talking about how the morons who lined up all the information, see, morons lined it up for me. They don't know that I think that they're morons, even though they think that black people are morons for committing crimes against one another, when even though those same people who are called black are not actual designate same or similar genetic groups. Let's keep going. Little is known. What? Little is known. Let me repeat myself. Little is known about the Slavs. Let's blow this shit up so niggas can see. I want them to be able to see when they see this. Can they see? Let's see. Oh yeah, that's seeable. That's legible. Look, little is known about the Slavs before they are mentioned in Byzantine records of the 6th century Common Era. And most of what we know about them prior to this time is mainly derived from archaeological and linguistic studies, meaning, nigga, we guessing in the motherfucking dark. The Byzantine authors refer to the Slavs as Sklaveni. Sklaveni. Some niggas will say the word means slaves, but that's not true for all languages because their language is not based on the Latin language. It's a language that the people who spoke a Latin language, the Byzantine Empire, comes right from the Roman Empire, a Latin-speaking culture, and they're like, none of their languages are our language, nigga. Stop it. Let's keep talking. The origin of the Slavs. The Slavs are the least documented group among the so-called barbarian enemies of Rome during late antiquity. So there is no scholarly census regarding their origin. That means that nobody took the time to write down where they came from because nobody knows where they came from. Authors who wrote about the Slavs do not agree. Some say the Slavs were nomads. Others claim that they lived in permanent settlements located in forests and swamps. Who does sound like? Some accounts say that they lived under the rule of a king, while others that they embraced a form of democracy. So listen, so they don't know who these dudes. They're just making up a bunch of shit and fairy tale fuckery. Let's keep reading. In addition to these discrepancies, we must bear in mind that most of these accounts are filled with the bias of the Romans, who saw the barbarian people as primitive, uncivilized, and violent. Stop right there. Here this motherfucker tries to go to try to defend individuals who were called barbarians because obviously they could not be dealt with on civil terms. Let's keep going. These motherfuckers, man, this shit is crazy. Some authors have traced the origin of the Slavs back to the indigenous Iron Age, tribes living in the valleys of Oder and Vistula rivers in present-day Poland and Czech Republic, almost around the 1st century Common Era. So listen to this right here. They don't really know. This dude is telling you that he took stabs in the dark. He's taking a stab in the dark right now, right? You don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. But don't worry. I'm going to read somebody else's history who sounds just like this. Like, where the fuck did y'all come from? And we don't know who the fuck y'all are. Keep going. This, however, is still a matter of debate. Based on archaeological evidence, we know that Proto-Slavic people were already active by 1500 BCE. How do we know that? They're called Proto-Slavic. This is the building of them. This is the who? The building of them. These are the Huns. These are the Khans. These are the individuals who came out of nowhere and took over and repopulated, assimilated, amalgamated, raped, murdered, and tortured all sorts of indigenous, native, aboriginal people out of existence. This is why they had no problem doing it over here in America to people who were more genetically related to them than not. Let's keep going. I'm not talking about the black skinned people. I'm talking about the red skinned, big nose natives. Let's read. This is, however, still a matter of debate based on archaeological evidence. We know that Proto-Slavic people were already active by 1500 BCE. Talking about your big nose Ottoman Turk dudes. Within an area that stretched roughly from western Poland to the Dnieper River in Belarus. Rather than having a center of origin of the Slavic culture, it seems more reasonable to consider a wide territory in which common cultural trait was shared by its inhabitants. Stop right there. What they're saying is that we don't know what these guys believed in. So anything goes. Nigga, this shit is crazy. We're gonna keep reading. This shit is crazy. Listen, I didn't write this. I didn't make this up. Okay? They made it up. What's popping? What's popping? Look, gentlemen, this is one of those ones. The way of the moron is to teach people things that are half truths. And then when somebody like me comes along and then even pushes back a little bit, now they want to say I'm tripping. Hold up, though. Let's keep reading because we're not done here. Linguistic evidence suggests that at some stage during the early times, the territory of the Slavs reached into the western region of Russia and the southern western steppes, where they came into contact with Iranian-speaking groups. These are all the same people, by the way, for the most part. There's certain genetic variants, but the linguistic variance is not that great. This is why the language that the Iranians speak, the so-called Israelis speak, the dudes who speak Russian, all them dudes from all the stands, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, right? Where else? Afghanistan, right? Pakistan, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Look, I'm just saying, but let's just keep going. Because you got dudes who look Asian and speaking Russian, and dudes who looking like a white dude, right? But he's speaking a more, I don't know, a mush mouth language, because that's what they all speaking to me. Let's just keep talking. This is based on Slavic languages, sharing a striking number, what? A striking number of words with the Iranian language, which can only be explained through diffusion from Iranian into Slavic. No, it's not. No, 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 no. These are the same people, y'all. I'm trying to tell y'all what's going on before we get there. Later on, as they moved westward, they came into contact with German tribes and again borrowed several additional terms from Germanic languages. Stop their mother lies. They all the same people and different people who made it with a certain group of people who became a people or claimed that they are people. I don't want to get too carried away, but I am going to talk about it because it's going to come up. I told y'all they all took Latin, yes, and dismantled Latin. They took Aramaic a little bit too and dismantled that. But Aramaic and Latin are related languages. So no matter what you do, even if you take real life Hebrew, real life Aramaic, real life Latin, there's only so many words that are going to be very different. The rest of them are going to have linguistic similarities. So when these dudes copy the other languages, no matter what, they're going to sound similar. Come on, man. Later on, as they moved westward, they came into contact with German tribes and again borrowed several additional terms from Germanic languages. Interestingly, a Polish thinker named Joseph Rostofinski had noticed that in all Slavic languages, the words for beech, larch, and yew are borrowed from foreign languages, which implies that during early times, these types of trees were unknown to the Slavs, meaning they are not indigenous to those fucking places. Let me keep talking. A suggestion that could be used as a clue to determine where the Slavic culture originated. Meaning they originated nowhere, nigga, because the places wherever they came up at, wherever they invaded the earth at first, is all they knew about for however long. So they had to learn about this shit as they went on. We have very little Slavic mythological material. Writing wasn't introduced into Slavic culture until the 9th and 10th centuries Common Era. What? During Christianization. So these niggas had to be civilized. These dudes is running around eating raw meat and everything else. Anyway, man, humping on their daughters, okay? Mothers humping on their sons and sexing on animals. Nigga, don't leave me alone because I'm giving it to these dudes. And that's exactly who these dudes are, okay? One important god of the Slavs was who? Perun, who was related to the Baltic god Perkuno, like the Norse god Thor. Perun was a god of thunder. Come on. Considered a supreme god by the Slavs, just like Thor was considered the most important god by some Germanic tribes. The male god of youth and spring, Jarilo or Larillo or Irillo, and his female counterpart Lada or Leda and the goddess of love were also ranked highly in the Slavic pantheon. Both Jarilo and Lada were gods who died and were resurrected each year. And Jarilo in particular might have had a connection with fertility motifs. During the rise of Christianity, Jarilo played an important role as he attributes as he has some attributes in common with Jesus Christ. Stop right there. Ain't that about a bitch? Because the nigga rose from the dead, they gonna try to say. See, ain't this about a bitch, man? Listen, they won't even say what the attribute was. It was one attribute, and it was this nigga raising from the dead. And once again, man, like, who are they talking to? I want y'all to realize, a slow ass person cannot read this shit like I'm reading it and do what I'm doing for the people. They can't keep up. They can't break it all down like this. Nigga, I could piff 10 blunts and still do this. But let's just keep talking. Several multi-headed gods Several multi-headed gods. What kind of culture does that sound like? Several multi-headed gods were also included in Slavic mythology, such as Svantavit or Svantevit, the god of war, who has four heads, two of them males, the other two females. This is where these dudes get all this intersexuality, all this fuckery from, because they're like that in their own cultures. Porevit with five heads representing the summer, Rejuvit with seven faces, the incarnation of Adam, and Triglav, who displayed three heads and was simultaneously looking at the sky, the earth, and the underworld. Stop right there. I need y'all to understand when it says like these multi-headed gods. Now listen, let's just go back to this little thing right here real quick, right? Of my dude Javier. And it's called what? The Odyssey of Gauls and Slavs from India to Europe. The Indians have gods with several arms and several heads type of shit. Or sometimes demigods represented with multi appendages. But for sure, they're gods as well. Listen, man, they're not going to play with me. The Slavs during the latter Roman Empire in the middle of the 5th century Common Era. So this is after the Franks have taken over, y'all. A political vacuum affected the entire region of the Balkans as a result of the fall of the Hunnic Empire. Attila's campaign left large areas south of Danube unsuitable for living and therefore empty. Blood and guts and dead bodies everywhere. Just fucking carnage and mayhem. The borders of the Roman Empire bordering the Balkans were kept with difficulty as new groups were moving within the devastated region. Among these groups were the Slavs. So these dudes broke it down and then they were like, we'll go in, we'll rebuild it. Listen to what I'm trying to say. These individuals believed that they were going to tear up everything and then redo it. They thought that the shit was just that simple. Why do you think it's taking so long to get back to where we're at? Brother Andre said the other day, he said, man, we're still in the dark ages. We never left. We've always been in the dark ages. It's just you don't want to realize and see the individuals who were over the dark ages are still in charge and they're still warring. How are you out of the dark ages and they're still warring? What are they? They've never known benevolence or peace. Let it sink in. Between 531 and 534 Common Era, how the fuck they know this? I have no idea, but we're just going to assume they do. Roman forces engaged in a series of military campaigns against the Slavs and other groups. During the 550s Common Era, the Slavs advanced towards Thessalonica, entering the region of Hebrus River and the Thracian coast, destroying several fortified settlements, and according to Roman sources, turning women and children into slaves and killing the adult males. So understand, when these dudes are taking over the Roman Empire, right? They did to the Romans what they felt was done to them. But the craziest part is when I read to y'all later how guys like Clovis, okay, were these dudes were Romanized and they understood the culture. They try to make y'all believe that these dudes are Christians. These dudes are not Christians. It just said that these dudes had a wide variety of cultural beliefs all throughout wherever their inhabitants were. So you can't have these niggas as all Christians. There was no king, there was no central nothing. So you can't have a central nothing and these dudes all be Christians. It's bullshit. However, they could not reach their target. Thessalonica was saved from disaster due to the presence of a Roman army under the command of Germanus. Later, during the early 580s Common Era, the Slavs combined with the Avars to overwhelm Greece, Thrace, and Thessaly. So the Slavs took over all these places that they claimed to be indigenous to. Who the fuck do you guys think these are in these places now? I've been saying this. I get so upset because it's just like I know it's just one nigga who been saying the same shit. If you think the earth is a million years old, you can believe whatever you want to believe. If you think that niggas is indigenous to America with afros and beards, you believe whatever you want to believe. Right on? I'm of a certain school of thought to think differently, to think that there were people who looked similar. Certain phenotype features were the same or similar, but not all things in congruence. Not all things consecutive and together. Right. There's a special group who were brought here. I'm not going to argue that with nobody. The individuals that we're reading about right now invaded these lands. They're not indigenous, and nobody knows where the fuck they came from. Just keep reading. The Romans made a pact with the Avars, who received an annual payment of 100,000 gold solidi in return for leaving their Roman borders untouched. Who does that sound like, y'all? Paying somebody off to leave you alone. Who that sound like? The Slavs, on the other hand, did not take part in the agreement, and they marched onto Constantinople. So these dudes did a double way deal. They made the Romans broke because the Romans couldn't afford to fight both forces. They felt like tried to pay off one, and the other one still marched on you because they knew that you couldn't hold them back. This ain't even talking about the Franks. Let's just keep going. This shit is so crazy. But they were driven off by the Roman defense. The Slavs continued attacking other settlements, and they were finally established the first Slavic permanent settlements in where? In Greece. In early 600s Common Era, Rome organized the campaign against the Slavs with no positive results. The Slavs and the Avars joined together once again, forming a massive force in 626 Common Era, and aided by the Bulgars, led siege to Constantinople. The barbarian coalition almost accomplished its goal, but the Romans managed to repel the attack. After this event, the Avars-Slav alliance came to an end. The Slav occupation of Greece lasted until 9th century Common Era, when Byzantines finally expelled them. The Romans expelled these dudes from Greece. Understand, man. Who do people think they are trying to tell you that all these niggas is the same? And have a movie where everybody looked the same. By that time, the Slavs had a solid presence in the Balkans and other regions, Central and Eastern Europe. Cultural divergences of the Slavs. Early in the Middle Ages, the Slavs occupied a large region which encouraged the emergence of several independent Slav states. From the 10th century onwards, Common Era onwards, the Slavs underwent a process of gradual cultural divergence that produced a set of closely related but mutually unintelligible languages classified as part of the Slavic branch of the Indo-European language family. Today, a large number of Slavic families are still spoken, including Bulgarian, Czech, Croatian, Polish, Serbian, Slovak, Russian, and many others stretching from Central and Eastern Europe down into Russia. Damn, damn, damn. Nigga. Nigga. I'm telling you, this shit is crazy. This shit is crazy. And I'm not even done. See, I got to read one more article because, once again, the way of the moron, they got to be exposed. If we don't expose them, right, we're just not doing our job. I'm not. They're going to be like, what does all this have to do with the moron? Got to hear it first and understand what's going on. The religion of the Turks. This is Islam and the Turks. And before we get into this one, I'm going to actually stop sharing, right? I'll stop sharing. And I'm going to pull up this other article real quick about the Franks, because that actually is very important. One second. Had to break down one of those. Where is my folder? One second. I had it pulled up, but then I had to close it down. I don't know what I was thinking about. And this was before I started doing everything. But the history of the Franks is very I mean, I actually want to do the Germanic tribes one and the Franks. I want to do both of those. So I'm gonna look for the Franks, and then I'm gonna look for the and then I'm gonna pull up the Germanic tribes one because uh, it it can't be stated enough how how this shaped everything the way that people believe. These dudes are morons. Once again, the dudes who will tell you that they're indigenous to those lands. Why would I stand up for the Palestinians or any of those? Why would I stand up for any of those dudes knowing what I know, what I just read to you? The way of the moron is to get you to get behind some shit like that, not realizing that these dudes are not even, they're not even from the places that they want you to act like they're from. The rise of the frogs. There we go. Whew. Come on. Gotta destroy one more of these and then pull up the early Germanic history. See, and this is just me doing my due diligence because I know I have to do it. It's just me. You know what I'm saying? It's just little old me. Oh yeah. One second. Bam, bam, and then boom. Share. Okay. 1 second. View tab. That seems about right to me. Okay. Let me blow up that page. Make that a little more legible. Okay. Here we are. The origins of the Germanic tribes is lost in the sands of time. Now, I don't know if we just read something similar like that about the Slavs, but I know it sounded similar to that. What little is known based upon what? Linguistic evidence. Everybody keeps talking about the language. The Germanic languages belong to the Indo-European family, to the Indo-European family of languages that span Eurasia, from Ireland to the west of India on the east. The origin of the Indo-European languages is believed to have been a merger of three peoples in the region between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. One of the three excelled in warfare, one in agriculture, and one in metalworking. The synthesis of these three strengths produced a folk that spread east and west. The western branch splits into the ancestors of the Baltic, the Celtic, and the Germanic, and the Slavic tribes, as well as a swelter of smaller groups, including the Latins and the Greeks. But that can't be true because, like I told y'all, the Latins and the Greeks are the ones who introduced these dudes into history. You follow what I'm saying? The languages of the Germanic tribes underwent systematic sound change that distinguished them of the other branches. Remember when it said that they became unintelligible, right on? So you couldn't tell the differences. So they could claim that they were different people. We're all different. But now when they have to tell the truth, see, they can tell the truth hella years later because it doesn't hurt them to tell the truth. Let's just skip down this very important part. The first written record of Germanic tribes was by the Roman historian Tacitus in 98 BCE. We'll stop reading there. We're done right there. The full moron would have you to believe in uh that that daggone what's it called? The full blown moron would have a nigga to believe that some, I mean, this is some bullshit, man. It is. It's some bullshit. But it is what it is though. Let me pull this up. 1 second. This is the right one. We only got so much information we need to read on these, y'all. So this shouldn't be too long. Let me blow this up. Try to blow it up before, but it wasn't. Couldn't see everything. So let's see. How does that look? Okay, that's pretty good. Alrighty. Let's delete that link. Let's go ahead and look at this. Look at this map right here, real quick. The defeat of the Huns after their tribes at Kalons, 451 AD, which is Common Era, right? So you guys got to understand, all this stuff is after the expulsion of the so-called tribes of Judah, or children of Judah, out of Jerusalem and out of the Promised Land, out of the land of Judah. They've already been pushed out by the Romans. They've already been pushed into what people call Africa. Whoever haven't been killed or sold off into slavery. Here we are, by some of the same people that I've been reading to you about, because the Roman Empire that they were invading would have been Jerusalem would have been a part of that Roman Empire. Now this would have been when they did that in the Common Era, that would have been, you know, well after the people were gone. But when they were a part of those forces that were actually partially Romanized, they were doing that way back when. Now let's just keep reading. Because the way of the moron would have a nigga to believe, I mean, some complete, utter foolery. Okay. Let me break this down just a little bit. Oh, it's too small. There we go. That's a little bit bigger. That'll do. Okay. Let me see. Make sure. Yeah, that'll do. Unless you got some, put your bifocals on. We have seen that the Roman Empire did not fall to murderous hordes of savage barbarians. Now, once again, the individuals who are writing this are the descendants of the same individuals who sacked Rome. Understand that, people. And they claim to be the Romans and everybody else in the movies. These are the ones making the movies. These are the ones who finance the wars. This is them. The invaders they're called invaders. The invaders, not the indigenous, not the native, not the aboriginal. The invaders who toppled the empire in the West were relatively few in numbers, were Christians who had long contact with the Romans and had become sophisticated and partially Romanized by that contact. This I can't make this shit up. This is what they're saying. But we already read that's not the truth. These niggas post and post and post everywhere. How can you get a large ass massive army together and try to take over Constantinople, and then these niggas try to say they were fucking few in number? They were relatively few in number. Nigga, you had a whole large army. The way of the moron is to produce information and pray that you do not cross reference. They're hoping that you don't look it up. That's their best bet. Now let's just keep reading. We have seen that the Roman Empire did not fall to murderous hordes of savage barbarians. Yes, it did. The invaders, yes, they were, who toppled the empire in the West were relatively few in number. No, they weren't. They were large as fucking number. They were rolling deep, as they say. Were Christians? No, they weren't. And had long contact with the Romans? No, they didn't. They just been fighting with the Romans. See how these dudes try to change the words around? Bullshit. Skip, 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 skip. The Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Burgundians, Vandals actually tried to restore and preserve much of the Roman imperial culture and its institutions. This is why the Russians claim to be Romans to this day, because they're part of the Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Burgundians, and Vandals who did all that bullshit. Let's just keep going. The Franks inhabited the delta lands at the mouth of the Rhine and Scheldt rivers. In about 350, they became Roman Feturati and were allowed to occupy lands south of the Rhine, and is now known and now what is known as the Netherlands and northern Belgium. It would appear that the sea level varies over time. The higher or lower water level has a greater effect upon low-lying lands, such as the Frank. The Roman Empire, the sea level was low, and this particular region was rich in agricultural products and active in trade and commerce between the Romans and Germanic tribes. That's not fucking true. The Germanic tribes and the Romans never were cool. Can you hear that? Never. This is when these dudes had already overtook these dudes. They'd already forced their way into the culture and said, we're Romans too. Follow me. This is not a group of individuals who all agree. Whoa, 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 whoa. Skip. They were not sophisticated or highly organized. Ostrogoths or Visigoths, we're talking about the Franks. They were still pagan, worshiping generally the same gods as many other Germanic tribes. Thor, god of thunder, Wotan, the sky god, Tu, the warrior god, and so forth. There were grouped in tribes, each ruled by a chieftain selected from a family that claimed to be descended from Wotan. So all the people who were the rulers descended from Wotan. The kings were both rulers and priests and were also the richest of the tribes. They surrounded themselves with large households composed of slaves and free retainers. As the empire weakened, the many small tribes that constituted the Frankish nation began to expand from marshes that were their home. Once the group pushed southward along the Scheldt River and now what is known as northern France and reached the same area by expanding the seacoast from the expanding seacoast. By expanding from the seacoast, there we go. The latter group, called the Salian Franks or Salt or Sea Franks, eventually came to be regarded as the ancestors of the French nation, and their laws and custom, Salic law, were considered as the basis of French law. This would become an important matter later on. In about 430, Franks occupied rich agricultural territory between Soissons and Cambrai. Soissons was an imperial arms factory manufacturing shields, swords, and spears. The Franks could now equip many more men than previously, and were more importantly, part of the which the Roman commander Aetius defeated the Huns in the Battle of Chelons, 451. After the murder of Aetius by his enemies in the court of Ravenna in 453, however, angry Franks threw off their federate status and renounced any allegiance to the empire. In 476, Odovaker, the German commander of the Roman army in Italy, deposed the Roman emperor and declared the empire in the west at an end. The Franks were free to pursue their own aims, just like dirty ass white folks. You let them in and then they fuck you over. Last part we're going to read about these dudes because he's the most important one. In 481, 15-year-old Clovis, the name of the form of Louis, which became a favorite name of the French royal dynasty, became a leader of his small tribe. Since, as we have noted, the chiefs of Frankish tribes were chosen from a single extended family claiming descendant from the god Wotan, Clovis began killing off other members of his family, and so reducing the number of people who could compete with him for authority, consolidating the other tribes under his leadership. In this fashion, in 5 years, he had united the under his personal rule. Stop right there. They don't put this shit in there the right way, but we're going to keep reading. And I want y'all to realize, do you think he forced all the people under his power first and was able to do that first? Or do you think he converted to Christianity, got the Roman armies to help him smash down some of his tribe, and then he was able to take over? Shh. We'll never know. In 486, he attacked the lands of Syragus, a Roman general holding up in the hopes of the Western imperial government would be restored. He defeated excuse me, Sirius in a single battle and moved his capital to the more central and strategic location of the town of Paris. That's how they took over Paris, y'all. In 496, he prepared for battle against the Burgundians, but found that they had been joined by allies from other German tribes, which the outcome of the battle, with the outcome of the battle in doubt, Clovis took an oath to become a Catholic Christian. This is not an Arian as were the other German tribes. If he were victorious, he won the battle and became the first of the German kings to embrace the Catholic brand of Christianity native Roman population belonged. Stop right there. Stop, stop, stop. They wrote the story, so we don't fucking know what order this shit happened. But if y'all really believe that this nigga took over those tribes, right on, you really believe he took over the tribes that he was supposed to have been over without help, you're sadly mistaken. The way of the moron. Continued. Hold on. This is that last link, y'all. Woo. Let's get it all the way in. Okay. The religion of the Turks. I gotta blow this up because this is little to me. I'm gonna try to make it as big as it can be on the screen. I want everybody to see this ish. Right here. This shit right here. Crazy, y'all. You understand? This shit right here crazy, you understand me? So look, the religion of the Turks. This is how it starts, y'all. Okay? Islam and the Turks. The ancient Turks, stop right there. Not the modern Turks. Not the modern Turks, not the young Turks, the ancient Turks worshiped the elements of nature and believed that they had been created by the sky god. They called this creator Tengri and offered him animal sacrifices, mostly what? Horses. You know, like the horses like your boy Shakvat like to eat, right? Shavkat, that dude, and all the other horse eating motherfuckers over there. However, mostly horses, cows, and sheep as befitted semi-nomadic pastoralists. Tengri cult was widespread among the Turkic peoples of Inner Asia. Stop right there. Widespread. Do y'all remember earlier when it was talking about there was no one central culture over all of them? This is in Inner Asia. So at what point was this happening? Let's keep reading. And traces of its religious traditions lived long after they had long after they had left their old homeland and moved to Central Asian and Pontic steppes and later to the Middle East. The Turk religious system also accommodated shamanistic practices and cults of lesser deities, among them the female deity of protection and fertility. Living in mountainous regions, ancient Turks gave due respect to the mountains and regarded them as sacred. Turk ancestor worship. What? Turk ancestor worship. What? Ancestor worship required that the Kagan himself lead an annual procession of the nobles bearing sacrifices to the ancestral caves. Y'all niggas better quit with that ancestral shit. Let's keep going. In the course of their history and migrations, the Turkic people came into contact with several other religions. Mahdavism, Mazdavism, Zervizism had a following of the Turk Khaganate, while Buddhism won the favor of numerous rulers, including the great Bilge Kagan and the Second Khaganate, or Khanate. The Uyghurs, under Sogdian, influence officially converted to Manichaeism in the 8th century, while the Khazar state was ruled by by aristocracy that professed Judaism. While the what? While the Khazar state was ruled by an aristocracy that professed Judaism. So these dudes just claim whatever religion. This is why they said that these dudes, they had a bunch of, there was just whatever was going on. Listen, y'all, these dudes just claim to be everybody. But let's just read about this last part that I want to read. The conversion of the Turks to Islam. The Turks first encountered Islam as the religion of a conqueror who slowly moved in on traditionally Turk controlled regions and threatened Turk economic and political interest. Considering that the Turkic peoples had always been open to religious influences of foreign origin, their initial resistance in the face of Muslim conquest may be regarded as serving the defense of their sources of revenue rather than that the freedom of their faith. So they wanted to protect their money. They didn't give a damn about what they had to believe in. And as long as whatever they believe, listen, they want y'all to believe that the Turks didn't create Islam. These dudes created that. This is it's not an Ethiopian religion. That's not what the Ethiopians believe. This is their faith. The way of the moron. We're going to stop right there on all that reading. The way of the moron would have a man, woman, child, gerbil, ant, gnat, dung beetle, mealworm, katydid, tarantula. It would have them all to believe that indeed the individuals who said that they were open to religion were now all of a sudden saying, oh, well, we don't know if we're going to make the same money. You dudes aren't even indigenous to the lands. Greater point of reference. How much relation do you think a guy like Charles Darwin and Francis Galton have to these same kinds of people? I have to make this shit clear every once in a while because it's like it gets lost on the people. We're dealing with individuals who are known invaders. They're not indigenous to any of those lands. Those guys who call themselves Europeans did not live in Europe first. Right. Black Romans with curly hair and brown skin lived in those places first. The Grecians, who were black, lived in those places first. The Etruscans, who were black, lived in those places first. All the people of Mesopotamia, black people, lived in those places first. Ran out, raped out of existence, amalgamated, assimilated. Once again, why do you think you have black people who still live in all these places to this day? Everybody's not a fucking African off of a dinky boat, nigga. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. The way of the moron would have a totally rationally thinking person believing something like, yo, did y'all know that these dudes who call themselves Turks and these dudes who call themselves Franks and these guys who call themselves Slavs all come from similar pantheons? No influence to the Egyptians. They don't even know who they are. And if you were to claim that, it would be through India. And the only reason why you can say that is because the Indians, true Indians, and Egyptians have a long-running history that dates back thousands of years. I don't want to get into all that because once again, this is not for me to try to educate people on things that they don't know. It's for me to remind them of things that I've already said and to be like, see, I told you already. The guys over there fighting in the Middle East are who? That's right, the Turks, the Slavs, partial Franks, a little bit of Franks, but for the most part, Turks and Slavs. Okay? And Mongols, Mongoloids. Yep, that's who's fighting. The same individuals who told you already that they're invaders to the land. So how can a person who lives in Palestine, who's actually an invader to the land, be having their land taken from them by individuals who are no more indigenous than they are to the land? And no less, for that matter. See, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. People don't get it. They want it to be sweet. It's not sweet. I won't tarry too long today, y'all, because I just did a bunch of reading. I did a bunch of informating while I read. If people don't understand, it's because the way of the moron, they no disrespect or dishonor to nobody. They're probably a moron. They probably come from a defunct fucking bloodline. And that's why they don't understand. Because I get it. It's simple. What I just laid out is simple. I literally read a bunch of articles that all coincided together. Not one of those people are the same people who wrote those articles. They're all different individuals from different walks of life as far as we're concerned. That should be enough for people to look at it and say, damn, nigga, that's crazy. They all said that? Yeah, they all said that. They all said, we don't know where they came from. Let that sink in, y'all. Not that we have an old ass DNA that we can compare to the Aboriginals, that we can compare to the Afro-Mans, that we can compare to any person on this earth that we say is indigenous, Aboriginal, and native to the land. Nope. We just said that we won. That's all we know is that we won. I'm not going to get talking about all the black traders. I don't even want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about black mongoloids who are more related to a Russian than they are to me and you. Because I've already brought these things up before. The way of the moron is to get me and you to think that if your skin tone is alike, you have to be alike. Those dudes who live over there, who understand that they're not indigenous, this is why they don't sound convincing. The Palestinians don't seem convincing. The Israelis don't seem. They're fighting over land that's not theirs. And they're hoping that people legitimize their struggle. People, real people. That's why they're all trying to pull who into it. That's right, black people into it. Because the way of the moron, the only thing they can do is to get us involved. I'm like, fuck it, let this niggas. If they're gonna blow this bitch up, we can't stop them. Real black empowerment would be denuclearizing this whole fucking earth. Like I said, if you're talking about be anything, be one black empowerment, all that bullshit, and you ain't talking about denuking everybody, taking their fangs out, nigga, you ain't talking about nothing. Declaw niggas, you ain't talked about nothing. Because that's the only way you're ever going to have any kind of empowerment where real justice will reign on the earth. It cannot reign where somebody can get upset, go into a room, press in some codes, and decide that they're going to totally annihilate or permanently cripple an entire populace of people. Japan will never have recovered from the nuclear attacks that they underwent. It doesn't matter what they have now. Them not being nuked would have been better than them being nuked. Period. You're not going to tell me that anywhere that got blown up with bombs is better off getting blown up than it was before that. I have a hard time believing it. I won't promote that. And I won't condone such nefarious activity. What I will say is this: it's unfortunate if you feel that way. I always believe that the people who call themselves sober minded are the least sober because they're trying so hard to prove to themselves, yet they indulge and engage in activities that are not of the sober minded, i.e., they drink coffee or they use stimulants. 5 Hour Energy isn't a drug, huh? I guess because the FDA approved it, right? And you can sell it over counter, so it has to be legal and legit. I don't take it, but there's a bunch of people who are out there who do. Probably don't smoke weed, probably don't do that. Bunch of guys who drink energy drinks. Energy drinks are laden with stimulants, addictive properties. Yet, that's okay though. It's okay to give your heart palpitations with a liquid, but I'm smoking and it doesn't do that. Not like I smoke all every moment of the fucking day. I mean, people who smoke cigarettes smoke way more cigarettes than I'll ever smoke weed. So I just think it's weird once again that we're in a time where a person like me I'm totally sensible. Everything I brought to the people is totally sensible. I just want them to realize I could follow this up with why the victory is going to be so sound. Because it's all those dudes over there that are fighting are all related. Like how you know they're not the people at the Bible? They're not the people. They're not them. I just told you these dudes just told you that they're invaders, right on, and came from God knows where. Think about that. They came from God knows where. Man, blessed be the Most High God. Blessed be all of his wisdom. Blessed be all of his ways. I laughed. There was a bitch ass nigga who tried to shit on the book of Enoch. And he tried to have some dude call him because these niggas pay people to call in, right? Some of your favorite YouTubers pays niggas to call in and say things that they can combat because typically their audiences are trained not to do that. Very few people call and go off script, right on? So these dudes are paid callers who literally call in and say shit just so these dudes can try to put down points that I've made that I never even made that point. You're making an off-brand point that I never made. I never said that 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 the spirit of the Nephilim was in some kind of a technological device. I said it was a fucking nuke, nigga. That's the energy of a Nephilim. If you gonna quote me, bitch, quote me right. Don't fucking take some shit and spin it, because that's what a moron does. Like the morons who wrote all those articles that we read. Those motherfuckers are stupid. Not one of them tied together one different thing. And then when they did, they tried to make it seem like, well, they're not the same people. But they're not, but they are. See what I'm saying? They come from one of the several groups who amalgamated and said, we're about to take this whole bitch over. All of whom come from children of the fallen. And if we read it correctly, if I read it correctly, they're saying that they're children of three particular fallen angels, not a whole group of them. If I read that right, and when I pop open that book, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm gonna do it here when I get off of this, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna say who I think the three are. I'm ready. See, like I said, it's easy to attack me because they don't have to be me. They don't ever have to be a black man that's actually telling the truth and telling an unpopular truth. What I'm saying right now is not popular. Nobody else is saying it. That's how I know it's not popular. But I said a lot of things that weren't popular that people began to say. I don't want them to take this and then only take it haphazardly. I would love for them to look at it and say, okay, this does actually make sense. These guys come from a defective bloodline. That's what I'm getting at ultimately. The Turk, the Mongoloid, and the Franc, aka the Anglo, who are all three different. Those are the three bloodlines that came together. Now, they don't talk about how they forced themselves onto the people of the earth so that way they could get some of the goodness of those bloodlines. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how the people that they forced to be up under them are people that were indigenous populations. They're not going to talk about that. So when I get done here, I just want y'all to just realize nothing that you do is going to change the truth. Do I think the dudes who wrote those articles smoke weed or drink or whatever? I don't. That doesn't matter to me. See what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. I don't care what they do. They gave me the information to use the way I see fit. I don't have to do whatever anybody else wants me to do. I took the information. I'm discerning it the way that I understand it. I'm not mad at nobody. I'm not angry at anybody. I just want y'all to I just want y'all to get what I'm saying. That is it's more to this. There's more going on than what they're going to tell you. And the players who have all benefited from it, right? I didn't even get into the fact that the Turks went into India, right? Which is where homeboy who, the Gauls and all that other stuff, and their their so-called roots from India and all that. Come on, man. Where you guys think they got that from? Then the Turks. These are all dudes who all again they all amalgamated, they all took over, they all planned or whatever. But I know that they pursued it and they haven't stopped their pursuit. And right now, these megalomaniacs have access to complete weapons, weapons that are utter, utterly devastating. They will destroy most of the face of the earth if they get the chance to do so and give themselves an excuse to do so. And in no other history of man, no other time in mankind will there ever have been a point in history where everything was destroyed. I want y'all to think about that for a moment. For all the wizards and warlocks and all the mages and all the enchanters, right? The Chaldeans out there, the real ones who lived, they never were able to accomplish this. And I'm not even sure it was on their mind. And there were just more ways to stop them. These dudes are not going to be stopped if people don't step up. Right. Pot smoking, beer drinking, niggas telling you that. If they don't start to ask to, if the people don't start demanding that we denuclearize a few of these nations, America being one of them, for sure, being the main culprit, the shit is cooked. Nobody should have nukes. No one should have nukes. If nations are going to have nukes, black people should have their own nation, and we should have nukes naturally. But we don't. We're in a nation where we're subject to somebody else's so-called fury, wrath, or indignation, and we have to support someone. That's bullshit. And then dumbass niggas will say that this is our home. Since when? Nigga, I couldn't tell. With all the gentrification, let me stop. Anyway, the way of the moron would have you to believe that this is our home. This is not our home, brothers and sisters. I salute you. I salute you again. And I salute you once more. With that being said, I cannot stress to you enough. They want you to believe anything and everything. I want you to believe what they've already told us, what they already put out, what they already say. And if you believe what they actually say, then you will come to the similar conclusion that if they're not lying about every little thing, question beckons everybody. Where, I mean, where did they come from? The way of the moron is to have us to think anything other than that.